everyone from beyond the shores of Tobago, and thank you for joining us for our media briefing today. We were scheduled to have post-executive press briefing on Thursday last, that's the Thursday after Carnival, but circumstances certainly beyond my control prevented us from being able to do so. But there are some important issues we wish to move to the public as we start this week. I hope you're having a good Sunday. This point, you're perhaps having your best Sunday lunch. And so I will try my best to keep this brief, because I know on a Sunday that my voice may not be what you wish to hear. But we're happy nonetheless that you have obliged us in a conversation this Sunday afternoon. There are essentially about 4 items I wish to address with you at this time, 4 or 5 areas. I will start with the, I wouldn't say least important, but those that are far less controversial. I will treat those first and get them out of the way. And then there are 2 big ticket items for our discussion this afternoon. So the first area I wish to bring to your attention, sometime in December, a private firm, and that's the firm that is Touch Tobago Live. They, as part of the bus shed initiative, they actually furnished us with a bus shed. The build out happened in sometime between December and January. And yes, there was a desire for a major ribbon cutting and a major ceremony. And at the time, I certainly felt that it would feel patronizing, given that we were in an election period, to open it. Because the truth is, we weren't doing this project to win an election. We're doing this project because it's just part of what good governance on the island is about. It's about providing safe ways for persons to access public transportation, regardless. And so I wish to let you know that I've given instruction that the facility be open from Monday from at least 4 p.m. in the afternoon. It will be open, which means that rush hour time on Monday afternoon, you don't have to stand under a tent. And the sun is pretty intense these days. You will have a comfortable place in which you can access public transportation. Secretary with responsibility for transportation, Secretary Pantin, will be on hand along with Mr. Reed and the team from Touch Tobago Live to ensure that the transit lounge is open. This lounge, I will have you know, comes equipped with Wi-Fi capability, so there will be public Wi-Fi access. It has security cameras, it is air-conditioned, and it allows for you to utilize digital platforms to see the bus schedule and to also ensure that you are safe, you're secured, you're comfortable as you await the transportation. This facility, as I said, is provided to us by private citizens. The Tobago House Assembly did not spend a single cent in it. It's part of the bus shed rehabilitation program that continues. And so I hope that this inspires more people, more corporate Tobagonians to contribute in this regard to the island's development. Of course, we are elated that this kind of service is being provided first to those who travel to the extreme north, northeast, and eastern ends of the island. That is to say, the passengers who will normally wait in uncomfortable facility to get to Lansome or Palatine or Bloody Bay or Castara or Charlottesville or Speyside or Delaford. You now have greater comfort to wait the public transportation. And that's both buses and maxis are free to pick passengers up from this area in what is a transit lounge. And we will be monitoring the operations of this facility, of course, with robust cleaning, security, and all of that, to see how it works with a view of potentially replicating this across the island. So The tent that you have been waiting under, that will be no more as of tomorrow, because the transit lounge will be open to you tomorrow. Secondly, on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly and the people of Tobago, we wish to commend and congratulate our Tobagonian arrangers and pansides for their exploits during this recent carnival period. Of course, a round of applause is deserving to Uptown Fascinators and their stellar performance, both with the adult and the junior band this season. We also acknowledge the feat of Mr. O.J. Richards as arranger and what he has been able to achieve in this season. And of course, we continue to recognize Mr. Duvon Stewart and his efforts. Again, commendations to those in the Pan fraternity and your stellar work. I wish to also commend the Tobago Pansides, who had to readjust to not having the competition in Tobago, but at the last minute, owing to the challenges with the inter-island ferry, had to pivot to going to Trinidad to participate in the competitions there. So thank you very, very much. I was privileged to be there amongst the panists there in Trinidad. And just for those who are still wondering, I am not new to the Pan fraternity. I was an executive member for Panside in Tobago right up until I became chief secretary, actually. And so I know the runnings. I managed the Panside alongside Royal Axeback Titus, so I'm not new to the challenges you encounter. And I see your resilience, and I want to commend you for that. In particular, I want to commend those from Steel Explosion, because after the finals, the medium band finals, because you were staying all the way in Couva, I saw you and the team there on the port and decided to wait it out on the port for most of the night until the 6:30 sailing the next day. And so I want to commend you for your resilience. Sometime last year, because of the efforts of Kirsch, OJ, and Duvon, the executive took a decision that we will gift these three arrangers a lot of land each, one lot of land each, for their personal use, as a way of not just commending them with words, but giving them a tangible gift, recognizing their talents, their efforts towards the development of pan and music on the island, and what they do for young people. I think people need to appreciate that these pansides, even if it is seasonal, they have an ability to pull our young people away from the streets, away from vices and devices, and get them into productive use, albeit for a season. And so we continue to commend these arrangers. I will have you know that we begin the process today for Uptown Fascinators moving into their new patent. So that process begins today. I think those who have been gifting them with the facility have 2 or 3 minor items to do still at the pan side. So we will have an official opening later on, maybe in a week or 2 time. But today, as Uptown Fascinators is returning from the Champs concert in Trinidad, which was last night, they will begin moving their equipment across to their new location at Smithfield. And we wish that they will never, ever have to be knocking from pillar to post again while they try to build out their fraternity. More than that, when I inquired of those who contributed to the development, this is a contribution of around $1.5 million combined. We're talking about those who did earthworks, those who provided the foundation, concrete, steel frame, windows, doors, the preparation of the grounds, retaining wall systems, fencing, electrical, plumbing, the well-equipped additional shipping containers on the outside. All of those things were gifted to Uptown Fascinators from corporate citizens. And again, I thank all of you. And it's this kind of partnership that we want for our pan fraternity, especially given that most of the pan sides in Tobago remain unsponsored. And we currently do not have a single pan side in Tobago that is sponsored by an indigenous Tobago company. So that is a challenge I wish to throw out, to see if there are any indigenous Tobago companies who will be willing to be a marquee sponsor for one of our pan sides here in Tobago. But most of our pan sides remain unsponsored, and those that are sponsored by large national companies such as Tiantec or RBC. Well, RBC is now an international company, given that they are part of the Royal Bank of Canada. But I'm throwing out a challenge to see if there are any indigenous companies willing to sponsor Panside. So again, thank you very much to those who contributed to that effort. The next area we should talk to you about is the inter-island ferry service, and in particular, the cargo boat. But before we get to the cargo boat, perhaps I should indicate that we have had an increased number of sailings over the carnival period for the passenger boats, for the passenger vessels. And what we have found in terms of the key data between the 11th of February and the 18th of February, we had a total of 43 sailings in that period, between the 11th and 18th of February. So across a 7-day period, we had 43 sailings. A total passenger transported 14,687. The passenger capacity was 34,045 seats. So that means passenger utilization was approximately 43% for that period. The vehicle movements across that period, we had total vehicles transported 4,760. The vehicle capacity for that period was 6,907 spaces. The vehicle utilization was approximately 69%. So we had 20 sailings with the APT James, 16 sailings with the Buku Reef, and 10 sailings with the Blue Wave Harmony, supporting cargo and overall capacity. So I wanted to bring that statistic to your attention, because I know some in the space were concerned about whether or not there is an impact on domestic tourism. The reality is, insofar as passengers and the movement of people and personal vehicles, we were only at around 43% usage in transporting people between the both islands. So that continues to not be affected. That's the movement of people between the both islands. So those in the tourism sector really and truly should not have a challenge, because people are still being moved between the both islands, and that's those in the accommodation sector. Now to cargo, where we have a problem, and I want to be extremely clear. So I want to take my time, and I want to start as far back as 2017 to present, because it is very critical. Because it will appear as though every time we have to transition between one cargo ferry to another, we have some upheaval in the space, and it affects business on the island. So I want to start from 2017. Most of you will remember 2017, because in early 2017, we certainly had some protestations, of which I was one of those leaders. In 2017, we moved from the Superfast Galaxia, and the Superfast Galaxia went out of service effective April 2017. but we did not get the Cabo Star commission to sail until July 24th, 2017. I'm going somewhere. So in 2017, we had an entire 3-month window or period in the transition between the Superfast Galicia and the Cabo Star. 3 months we had. You should remember the swim protests. You should remember us trying to get the House at the time to debate the issue as a matter of urgent public need. This was in early 2017. I became a member of the Tobago House of Assembly in January of 2017. During the period, we had the Superfast Galicia. So, in other words, we had a 3-month wait in 2017. We were patient then. Then we came with the period of the Cabo Star between 2017 and 2025. During the period, we had the Cabo Star. In 1 year, we had 2 fires on the Cabo Star. We were patient. At one point, we had the Cabo Star drift for 17 hours with passengers on it. I'm sure you may remember passengers walking across planks of wood between 2 vessels. We were patient with it. We have had ramp issues with the APT James and the TNT Spirit, and we have been patient. And I have asked for patience in January. Well, at this time, I asked for patience a few weeks ago because in January, we were able to have the Blue Wave Harmony coming to Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, we could safely say this is the first time in the transition that a replacement vessel arrived in the country so quickly. The Cabo Star went out of commission here on January the 12th, and about a week and a half or 2 weeks later, we had the Blue Wave Harmony here. I asked for patience because the Blue Wave Harmony came, and there were some accidents and incidents here in Tobago with the ramp, accident along the jetty on the side of the Blue Wave Harmony, and rightfully, Tobago, your patience is running out. And that is understandable. It's understandable that people's patience and anxieties are being worked up. As a matter of fact, I met with the Stolly Park Enterprise Limited on Friday. I had a meeting with them on Friday, and they projected to me how they are not able to get sufficient bitumen on the island. They have them in Port of Spain, in Trinidad, but can't get them up because of the issue with the ferry. That was just on Friday. I am being advised that, if I go to the larger supermarkets on the island, the larger ones, it will look as though things are okay, the shelves look well. But if you go to the rural parlors and shops, then some goods are not filtering to them. I'm being told, for example, Associated Brands, that they have no cereals and chocolates, that Bermudas have biscuits, but Holiday Foods, they are out of snacks. The kids' products are not coming up fast enough. Those are some of the things that we're getting. Of course, we had an issue on island with getting cement and steel and building materials through the hardware. And so, yes, I asked for patience about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and rightfully, people's patience are running out. And let us be real, we have been patient this time. We were patient during the Cabo Star and the issues that had. We were patient, well, I wasn't, but the island was patient in early 2017 when we were waiting on the Cabo Star to arrive. And as I'm saying this, I'm pointing out that this seemed to be a regular pattern. So what has gone wrong this time? The Blue Wave Harmony, after we met with the stakeholders in June of 2025, we met with the stakeholders and we laid out what we wanted to the minister and to NITCO and the Port Authority. We were told that the Cabo Star would be out of commission in January, and we got an announcement for the Blue Wave Harmony sometime between December and January. The Blue Wave Harmony did come in relatively quick time, and we were all happy to see it arrive in the country. Sometime thereafterwards, as he was doing the sea trials, we got the accidents that happened. That resulted in a delay in the sea trials. I observed that there was a press release yesterday that indicated that on March 1, which is a week from today, meaning on Sunday coming, the vessel should be up and running full time. Now, there are a couple of things I want to say about that. Number one, as an island, we expect that deadline will be held. That deadline of March 1 will be held, and that from March 1 going forward, we will not have any issues. Number two, I spoke to the minister yesterday, and she emailed me. I spoke to her about safety of the vessel, because naturally, with all that we're seeing happening in the space, there is growing concerns about whether the vessel is technically safe for our people, and not just our people, but for our truckers and citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to utilize. The minister emailed me yesterday, and she forwarded to me emails from the agent. I got that at 6:03 p.m. yesterday evening. And I wish to share some elements from this email and its clarification on technical status with regards to the bow thrusters. And it reads, and I'm quoting, "There have been incorrect assertions regarding the vessel's technical readiness. The Blue Wave Harmony is designed with 2 bow thrusters for redundancy. Under RINA, and that's RINA, abbreviation for Registro Italiano Navale, classification rules and international maritime standards, a single functional bow thruster is certified to provide the total thrust capacity required for the vessel's maximum displacement. Therefore, the vessel remains fully compliant with all international regulations and is technically fit for service. The second or backup bow thruster is under maintenance that owners expecting to fix within the next week." So this came as part of an email yesterday, among other bits of information in that email. So please note that your Chief Secretary and this Tobago House of Assembly have been having conversations with the minister about the safety and technical readiness of the vessel, given what we have seen in the space. And I've just shared with you the data as provided from the minister, which was provided to her because she forwarded the email from the agent responsible for the Blue Wave Harmony. So that's the second major issue I want us to look at. The third issue I want us to look at is what's the cost to business on the island. We have a unit at the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy that's led by Dr. Selvon Hazel. And that unit is being asked to ascertain the cost to business for this period between January 12th and present, with the downtime we have had with the vessels. What is that true cost? And so as to avoid speculation, and people just calling figures out, we need to know the true cost, and that will assist the Tobago House of Assembly in seeing what measures it needs to put in place to ensure that we keep our businesses afloat, given what they have experienced over the last couple weeks. This unit was also charged sometime last year when I spoke to the Secretary of Finance, when all the conversation was being had about the radar and Venezuela and what was happening there. One of the things I asked this unit to do was to begin to look into whether or not Tobago has at least 3 months of food on island. That's the research that they're currently working on. Meaning, If something happens in Port of Spain, I mean, the region has been inundated with earthquakes recently. And one, we are told, happened somewhere across Tobago, either yesterday or the day before. I did not feel anything. But what if something that is catastrophic happens in Port of Spain? Nothing, the boat is fine, but something catastrophic happens. And the port operations can't happen from Port of Spain. What becomes of us? And so the research and the instruction to the Division of Finance is that we have to get Tobago to a place where we have at least 3 months worth of food at any given time. Whether we could feed ourselves for 3 months without needing anything external to come to the island. So that's something that they have been working on since last year. Now we are asking them to look specifically at the economic fallout from the Blue Wave Harmony and not being fully operational as yet, having arrived in the country in January, in the middle of January, and we over a month, and we are being told that it will be full commercial operations will take place on the 1st of March. We want to know what that fallout will be so that the Tobago House of Assembly can do what is necessary to ensure that businesses keep afloat. Let me add that that's a deviation from the norm. The norm is when there is a fallout, as in 2017, eventually they got the Cabo Star in operation in July, some 3 months after the Superfast Galaxia went out of service, and life just moved on. I don't think the THA then gave any additional support. No one stopped to study the impact during that period. There was no real meaningful action, but we are a different government. And I'm saying that there will be meaningful action, and that will come upon the collection of data to ensure that our businesses receive the support that they need at this time. This Blue Wave Harmony docked into Scarborough at 8:15 this morning. It came into Scarborough, no issues this morning. It brought 170 vehicles. That's regular vehicles. It had 24 trucks, 8 vans, 4 cars. It had 12 20-foot containers. It had 1 20-foot flatbed, and it had 6 40 feet flatbed. So forgive me if you hear me say 20 foot as opposed to 20 feet, right? It's just hard to get the colloquialism out of you. But so 6 flatbed 40 feet in length each, 1 flatbed 20 feet in length, 12 containers that were 20 feet in length. We had 4 cars, 8 vans, 24 trucks, and we had 170 other vehicles on this vessel that came up. We had no dangerous goods today. When we talk dangerous goods, we're talking things like bitumen, dynamite for the quarry, etc. None of that was transported today. The vessel, the Blue Wave Harmony, which was originally scheduled to leave Tobago at 12:30 p.m. today, we have gotten the port to now have them leave at 1:30 p.m. an hour later, which is to allow for more time for the turnaround so truckers can offload and put their trucks back on the vessel. Of course, the Port Authority will have to work out a suitable schedule in time for March 1. The sea trials will continue throughout this week, and throughout this week, the Blue Wave Harmony will continue to carry trucks and vans and cars and flatbeds and containers between the both islands so that we can make up the gap. But from March 1st, from the 1st of March, we want to ensure, and I'm saying this for my good friend, Minister of Works, to ensure for us that on the 1st of March that we're having full commercial sailing. and that the communication is forthcoming, and we don't anticipate anything untoward happening hereafter. It's critical. So again, that's where we are in terms of the updates on the Blue Wave Harmony. That's where we are in terms of how we are going to ensure that we don't have disruptions going forward, and we can minimize the disruptions. I also pointed out to you the kind of data that the Division of Finance will now be collecting. So we're not just saying disruptions happen for a couple of weeks, and we're going to get the Blue Wave Harmony up and running, and whatever your loss is, so be it. We are saying we want to know what that loss looks like. We're investigating that, and we will ensure that the THA does whatever is necessary to keep those businesses afloat. I see one businessman considering whether or not the impact is so great that he will lose his business. And I'm saying, as a Tobago House of Assembly, it's our duty to ensure that the business is not lost, and that whatever the impact is, we are able to treat with that fallout. And we're giving that commitment at this time. I pointed out to you what happened with the sailing of the Blue Wave Harmony that docked at the harbor in Scarborough this morning, and the number of vehicles and types of vehicles that were brought to Tobago, that the trials based on what is provided to us from the Port Authority will continue this week, and that includes trials for night sailing. Will continue this week with full operation, full commercial operation to start from the 1st of March 2026. I want you to know that I intend to sail on the vessel as well with our truckers, because I don't want to take it for granted that I walk through the vessel, they tell me it is nice, things look nice, they tell me things are fixed, and then there are other challenges. So I intend at some point to make the journey with our truckers and those in the industry. The Chamber of Commerce, and this is not fully related to this, but the Chamber of Commerce wrote me last week. I received a letter from them on Thursday gone, and I've already signaled to my team to schedule the meeting with them as they requested. But this is beyond this matter, but I'm certain that this matter is one of the issues that they will like discuss, and we will have conversations about. So it is my duty to thank you for your patience. It's my duty to acknowledge that you have a right for the patience to run out at this time. And I'm also indicating where the ministry, NITCO, Port Authority, where they are at in terms of preparation for full operations of the Blue Wave Harmony starting the 1st of March. I took my time to point out the history behind this thing, so you can see clearly the differences. You can see how much effort we made to avert or to avoid what happened in 2017 from happening now. In 2017, we had a whole 3-month interval between the Cabo Star, between the Superfast Galaxia and the Cabo Star. We had the Blue Wave Harmony here within a matter of a week and a half from the decommissioning of the Cabo Star. I pointed out how Tobagoans have been patient through all the ups and downs with the Cabo Star, from the fires to the boat going adrift, etc., to you being asked by me to be patient now with the Blue Wave Harmony. I acknowledge and respect that your patience have run out, and I am not here demanding additional patience from you, but I'm here pointing out where the ministry is at, and when I say ministry, that includes NITCO and Port Authority with regards to full commercial operations of the Blue Wave Harmony. I'm telling you as an island that we are holding the ministry to account, and that's why we have inquired to the extent that the the minister sent via email information concerning the technical readiness of the vessel, because that was very important to us, so we're not leaving it up to chance. We are asking the right questions and making the right demands, and I want to thank the minister for being so forthcoming with information to my office and to the people of Tobago. I have pointed out where we have experienced some shortages on the island, so I am acknowledging that, and I have indicated how even as a THA, we have experienced some shortages with some of our arrival of our goods, and so you are not alone in the private sector. The government sector is also impacted by this matter. I have pointed out that the Division of Finance, through that unit being run by Dr. Selvon Hazel, will collect the data, will be meticulous in collecting the data. This is the same unit that takes responsibility for calculating our GDP, for doing all of the economic research on the island. And so they will get this information for us so that the Tobago House of Assembly can do what is necessary to ensure that we keep our businesses afloat, all of our businesses. That's part of our job. But the 1st of March, which means that the vessel arriving in January, middle January, operating the 1st of March, meaning that there's a transition gap of about a month and a half. Now, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so, as a country, I want it to be clear that we can't have a repeat of this situation again. We are told that the vessel is here for a year for us to assess and determine what we want. The first thing is that I want NITCO to know when you're procuring a vessel for permanent operation in Tobago, that the Tobago House of Assembly, on behalf of the people of Tobago, must be part of that process. I don't want NITCO going out to look for a vessel for Tobago without Tobago being in the room. So I certainly want Tobago to be in the room as we prepare. I also don't want us to wait until January next year, when the tenure of this vessel is up, to now start looking for a permanent solution. I need for us to find the permanent solution during the 1-year period that the Blue Wave Harmony is here. Part of the problem with governance in the country generally, and this is not a criticism of anybody specific, is that a lot of what we do is just not proactive. It's just always responsive to a need as opposed to foreseeing the need and foreseeing the challenge. And I don't want us to be caught in this situation again. So, again, the vessel will continue carrying vehicles all through this week. 170 vehicles came up today. That's 170 other vehicles, 24 trucks, 8 vans, 4 cars, 12 containers, 20 feet in length each, 1 flatbed of 20 feet in length, and 6 flatbeds 40 feet in length. But it will continue to carry these kinds of vessels throughout the week to ensure that we get the goods to the island. But of course, this speaks to a larger issue that we have. As I said, we started a study last year to look at how long can Tobago sustain itself food-wise without any sailing of the vessel. The answer to that question is important because the answer to that question is what will inform government policy in terms of how we provide incentives to the private sector and also to those in the public sector to ramp up food production. And it's not just our farmers. In fact, on Thursday at our executive council meeting, one of the things we spent time talking about is the fact that the island just doesn't have any factory that mass produces anything. And no, I'm not demeaning those that do benet and tambran and pepper sauce and our agro-processors. I'm talking about large-scale production, factory production. We have none. And perhaps that is a sign of the failings of the Tobago House of Assembly after 45 years of having the THA. Now we don't have any. I have heard my parents talk about a juicy factory in Tobago and so on. That has not been my lived experience. And so that must tell you how long ago that has been. I'm young at 40 years. So that should tell you for how many years we have had this gap. And that is something that we have to have a conversation about and that we have to fix in the shortest possible time. But we're doing the necessary research and data. This also speaks to the issue of our autonomy and whether or not the THA should take it upon itself, given the 5th schedule, and spending money on boat and plane and connectivity. Because the 5th schedule says that we have responsibility for air, for transportation, including air and sea, or wharves and airports. And so it's something for us to think about, but note that the cost for doing so is extremely high. And so if the central government is not going to bear that cost, and the THA has to bear that cost, we have to look at what we will give up to be able to bear that cost. Finally, the final thing I want to bring to your attention, or before I get to the final thing, we were supposed to have post-exec briefing on Thursday. And the truth is, I have a personal matter I had to deal with on Thursday that prevented us from having the post-exec briefing. And this morning as I was coming and think about it, I said, perhaps being chief secretary also means that regardless of what the personal matter is, that should take second place to getting the people's business done to the people. So if that's how you feel, notwithstanding how serious that personal matter was and is, I apologize. And so it brings me to the final issue. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, for perhaps the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, has invited the Chief Secretary to attend the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Kitts. And that's on Tuesday and Wednesday in this coming week. Now, this is a first because the Tobago Assembly has no remit over international relations based on the law. But we are being invited to participate in the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting simply because it is happening in St. Kitts, Nevis next week. St. Kitts, Nevis is a federation. They have a federation where Nevis has a state government, the Nevis Island Administration, headed by a premier, and the government in St. Kitts acts as the government for St. Kitts in terms of their state functions there, and also acts as the central government or the federal government for St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts Nevis has extremely progressive laws when it comes to the autonomy for Nevis. And the Prime Minister, and I want to thank the Prime Minister in this regard, has signaled that we should think as progressive as the people in St. Kitts Nevis in building out our framework for autonomy. As I pointed out to you in January, when I installed the secretaries, and also as I pointed out on January 1 when I launched the blueprint, is that the timeline for new laws for our autonomy must be by December 31st, 2026. Meaning by the end of this year, we must have those laws passed. And so the Prime Minister has invited my office to attend the CARICOM Heads of Government with her. Meetings are being facilitated with the Premier of Nevis, Prime Minister of St. Kitts, and also conversations with CARICOM counterparts about autonomy and how CARICOM as a regional body ought to look at this matter seriously when we start considering the devolution of powers to sub-states or appendage states to larger islands. Upon return from CARICOM Heads of Government, as Chief Secretary, I plan to install on the island a constituent assembly. The constituent assembly is really calling the entire constituency, that is Tobago, to order and calling the entire island to a place where we finalize the provisions we want for autonomy. All significant NGOs, faith-based organizations, and legitimate political interests will be invited to the table to be part and parcel of the Constituent Assembly. We will kick off the Constituent Assembly with a Shore Park conference. And at that conference, we will, sometime during this week, we will begin sending out correspondence to these notable NGOs, faith-based organizations, and political interests, asking them to consider making presentations at the Shore Park conference, which will essentially serve as the catalyst, as the beginning, as the commencement of our Constituent Assembly. That Shore Park conference will be, all the minutes will be detailed. The Hansard will form part of a body of records that will be held for posterity and also to drive this process along. I wish to advise that notwithstanding winning all the seats, we are not trying to come up with everything ourselves, but we are essentially asking the entire island to participate and to let their voices be heard in terms of what they would like to see, what we would like to see with regards to our autonomy. We will also be inviting to Tobago, to our Constituent Assembly, independent senators, members of the opposition, and members of the government. In other words, we're doing this in reverse. We're not going down to Trinidad to do it. We are inviting our counterparts from Trinidad to come to Tobago and to sit with Tobagonians, to hear from us here in Tobago, and to be part of our Constituent Assembly. So that by the time we send this thing down to the Parliament, it should be fit to go straight to the Parliament floor. The Legal Affairs Secretary, that is Mrs. Joseph Wallace, while my office is organizing the Constituent Assembly, she is working on pulling together a team of legal draftsmen who will simultaneously draft or codify the laws as the island is engaged in robust debates and conversations about what our autonomy is to look like. So again, I acknowledge and thank the Office of the Prime Minister for a historic first in terms of the invitation to join her at CARICOM Heads of Government in St. Kitts Nevis. But more important, much more important than that, is that our Constituent Assembly will soon be convened. It will be convened with a conference at Shore Park, a date to be announced later this week. And during this week, NGOs, faith-based organizations, and political interests will all be invited to the table to bring their viewpoints to the table and to be part of robust conversations and debates about what our autonomy should look like. Again, of critical importance with the matter of autonomy, none of us, no political party in this exercise will get all of what they want. But we know that there are some non-negotiables. We know one of those non-negotiables will be the defining of the island and the island's space. One of those non-negotiables will be the authority we have in law over our space and to pass laws over our space and to maximize our investment potential, our earning potential using our physical space, and that includes our maritime space. And so, of course, we will stick to those non-negotiables while we look at the broader autonomy picture. I did point out during the blueprint, and I want to thank Tobago for voting so convincingly for us, because I didn't hide this from you. I brought this to your attention on January 1. I brought to your attention what the process we propose to have will be, and you voted for that. You did not vote for any of the other ideas that were in the space. You voted for ours. And our idea was and still is that the government of Trinidad and Tobago should pass a single constitutional amendment bill that will give Tobago the broad constitutional powers to pass laws, and to pass laws in such a way that it does not conflict with the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, and that we on the island of Tobago, we will take our time here subsequent to the passing of that law to build out the form, the structure of our government and what it should look like. And all the way back with the blueprint and even before that, I said to you that the reason that we mooted this as the proposal is so that we don't codify in law at the central government elements that will force us later on to have to go back to the central government to fix something as simple as how many seats we should have, whether we have a tie or not. What should we do if the clerk is not in the house? And some of those simple operational matters will be fixable right here by our own assembly. At this point, I will pause for if there are questions. I see 3 hands are up. So we'll go in the order of Stephen Nicholas, Cassandra Thompson-Forbes, Elizabeth Williams, and then Ms. Joel Green, in that order.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chief Secretary.
Good afternoon.
Yes, so you said that you have charged a unit with quantifying the losses caused by the disruption to the cargo service on the sea bridge. Is compensation being suggested for the business sector?
Not suggested, considered. So just change the vocabulary there. But we will need to know what that cost is and what we will need to do to ensure that our businesses stay afloat.
Yeah. Also, Mr. Chief Secretary, you said that vessels have taken time in the past to settle into the sea bridge. It's not new. The APT James took 24 days. The Bucko Reef took just under 2 months. But the issue here is the contingency plan in place. Was it a mistake to only lease the barge for 10 days?
It was perhaps overly ambitious to only lease the barge for 10 days. You see, if you understand the workhorse of Miss Julian John, you will understand that she's someone who likes to get things done and get it done now. And so leasing the barge for 10 days is owing to the fact that she felt we should be able to get it done in 10 days. It not working out in 10 days simply meant that the ministry and NITCO and the port probably had its expectations a little too lofty and wasn't as realistic perhaps given the history. Because the Cabo Star was a 3-month transition. You just pointed out 24 days for Bucko Reef, how many days for the others. It never really happens in under a month or thereabout. So, but given the circumstances, the Ministry and the Port Authority continue to provide additional avenues to move the goods. And at this time, the Blue Wave Harmony will be moving the goods throughout this week as it continues its sea trial with the intention of being full commercial operations, from March 1st.
You also said that advocated in the past, Mr. Chief Secretary, that having 2 Tobago-based MPs would augur well for the island. Now that this is a reality, has the Tobago MPs exerted any pressure on central government to fast-track a solution on the cargo issue on the sea bridge?
Certainly, the MPs for Tobago East and West have been doing their jobs in ensuring that they are strong advocates on this matter. They have been. As a matter of fact, I want you to look at the reality. We have not had a vessel arrive on island so quickly after one goes out of commission. The Cargo Star went out of commission on January 12th, and within a week and a half, the new vessel was here. In fact, as the Cargo Star was going out, the new vessel was en route to the country. That speaks to the work that they have been doing. So it's not that they were sitting down. You didn't wait a month for the vessel to arrive. The vessel arrived in quick time. And of course, we were all hopeful that we'll meet that 10-day window for the transition. It did not happen. An accident happened at the port in Scarborough. I don't know whom I should blame for that accident that occurred. And then thereafter, we had some issues with the ramp. But all of these issues are being sorted, if not sorted already. I also pointed out that I asked Ms. John about the matter of technical readiness, and I shared verbatim from her email to me, and I can see where that email was sent to her from the agents for the vessel. So the MPs have in fact been doing their jobs. If we did not have that accident in Scarborough, then we will not be having this conversation. I want us to be honest about that. If the accident did not happen in Scarborough, where the side of the vessel was damaged during some rough sea event, and at the same time that was happening, we had cruise ships being turned away from other ports in the Caribbean because of rough seas at the same time, so it wasn't unique to the Tobago context, then we will not be having this conversation. I don't want people to go away thinking that somehow Farley or Tomo or Notse did something wrong why the vessel is not sailing as yet. That is far from the truth. This is a case of an accident that happened at the port in Scarborough, and then that led to some other technical difficulties with the vessel. And we are now being given a commitment of March 1, which is next Sunday, for full commercial operations. And the sea trials are expected to go on throughout this week without a hitch. And with the sea trials, they will be able to bring the vehicles to the island to reduce the shortfall that has happened over the past 2 weeks or so. Mrs. Forbes, Thompson Forbes.
Good afternoon, Chief. You indicated that the full commercial service should begin by March 1st. I just wanted to find out, are you aware of any specific technical benchmarks that must be met before we deem the Blue Wave Harmony fully reliable?
If there any specific, what I missed piece of what you said?
Oh, sorry, technical benchmarks.
Okay. I'm not sure of the specific technical benchmarks, but I know it has to be commissioned. It has to meet some requirements for international certification and also for operation within our space. I am not aware of what the specific technical benchmarks are. As you may well be aware, navigation is not within the wheelhouse of my expertise. But I certainly can ask for what those technical benchmarks are, and more than likely I'll be provided with the information. So I will ask that question of the minister, and we will pass that information on to you.
We know things can happen. What immediate contingency measures do we have in place, providing that we don't hit that March 1st, to alleviate any further cargo disruption?
I can't quite answer that question because I don't think that there are any additional measures in place except for the operations of the TNT Spirit and other vessels that we actually have on hand. And so the pressures we are going to place on Ms. John and her team is to ensure that the benchmark of March 1st be met. Ms. Williams? You will have to unmute.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chief Secretary. I don't know if you're hearing me.
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yes, thank you so much. Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News. Just wanted to know, I have a couple of questions with respect to the Blue Wave issue. If you think the people of Tobago deserve an apology with respect to this situation, either from you or personnel, I know that it was an accident, and I know you went into details as to the situation comparing 2017 to now and other occurrences that would have taken place. But do you think the people of Tobago deserve an apology with respect to this situation? And my other question for now also is with respect to the Blue Wave Harmony. Would you say this was a mistake? I know that talks took place with the minister, the chamber, and other stakeholders in Tobago, but do you think that Tobago should have been more involved with this situation here?
All right, so let me answer your last question first. Tobago should always be more involved in these situations. Granted that the vessel is not just for Tobagonians, because I want you to note that while Tobago businesses are crying out about the impact on their businesses, that there are in fact Trinidad businesses that are also impacted by this, because the goods are coming from down there through Trinidad businesses. So the impact is not just on the island of Tobago, and I want that to be clear. So there's always a need for more Tobago involvement on these matters. And that's why I said that during this year, as the analysis is being done to determine what the permanent inter-island cargo solution should be, that I expect Tobago to not just be in the room, but Tobago to be there at the point of execution. And I ask of that from NITCO. In terms of apology, I have apologized, certainly, for my lack of communication, and notwithstanding what took me away from the office immediately after Exec Council on Thursday. Of course, the week before that, you all were busy jumping up on the road. Either you can't behave or you were having an encore. But either way, the island was busy having a time. So nobody had time to listen to me Carnival week. So essentially, we missed our press briefing on Thursday. That's why I'm having it now, and I did apologize for that. It's difficult to say who should apologize for the accident in Scarborough, because at this point, without me seeing a report, I can't say whether it was human error to try to dock the vessel given the sea and wind conditions, or whether it was another matter. So that's a bit difficult, but I have given the commitment to work with our stakeholders in ensuring that if there are damages to their businesses, that the businesses can in fact stay afloat. I have not promised compensation. I have simply said it's being considered, and for that to be considered, we need the data, and I've indicated that the Division of Finance will be responsible for collecting that data so that we can make an informed decision about what is needed to ensure we keep our businesses afloat. I've also pointed out that we will not do like the THA did in 2017, which is to say, okay, boat come now, boat working now, we move on. That's not what we will do. We will do the analysis, pull the data, and take the responsible decision. That's the kind of government I lead. Ms. Green?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and the Chief Secretary specifically. Thank you for the information you have shared. A number of things have come up, and what I would like to know, firstly, is when will the report from Dr. Hazel's unit be ready about what the cargo boat issue has cost Tobago? And you did also mention about, can Tobago supply itself with at least 3 months of food during, any other event should happen, whether it's a force of nature? And are you, as Andy THA, looking at Cove Industrial Estate, because you did mention factory industry, are you all looking at the Cove Industrial Estate in terms of populating it? It has existed for the last 15 years, and it is a veritable ghost town. So are we looking at Cove to be the space
where we can have that manufacturing factory industry boosted? And if so, are we looking for Tobago to have its import-export port of entry so that we can have better facilities for such an industry? And finally, I want to congratulate you and the THA on the history being made, being invited to attend the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting this coming Tuesday and Wednesday in St. Kitts. So my question for that would be, if or when you get to address the Heads of Government meeting, bring greetings, what will be your talking points or request of CARICOM for Tobago in terms of the autonomy that you mentioned and some of the things that Tobago specifically may need CARICOM to consider going forward in terms of security, and also whether you have been appointed that seat on the National Security Council that you have asked the Prime Minister about?
I thank you for your questions. The matter of when the report will be ready, I cannot give you a date immediately because this is a recent occurrence, as recent as last week into this week. So I say we'll probably need a 2-week window to facilitate that sort of arrangement and to get a report. In terms of the larger study that they're doing, I anticipate that might take them another month or so to collate that information. The next area you asked about is Cove and what's necessary. And it's interesting you have asked about Cove, which has been a ghost town, Jumbieland, for quite a while. During the last 4 years, we pushed to issue the land spaces for businesses in Tobago and external investors to come and set up factories there. But when we were ready to provide the leases for the land, that's when it was discovered that Cove and the company there, EID Cut, never had adequate tenureship or titleship for the land there at Cove. And so they could not give any leases out. There's another issue, which is at Cove, the necessary application was never done to allow for it to be a tax-free zone. The application was never done and never filed. And so towards the end of 2025, we started the process of treating with those matters. So that will allow us to then get people into the space and to utilize the space at Cove. In terms of port, import, export, we have been the only political party in recent times to actually not just have a plan, but to do work. We have not given up on the matter with the port development in Scarborough. We have gone ahead. We did some consultations in the last 4 years. We did some feasibility studies. We did some modeling of what the port should look like and the kind of built development that is required. We have gone out seeking investments. Those investors have returned saying they need sovereign guarantees, or for the very least, some guarantee from the central government that says that they are not objecting to this kind of investment on the island. So yes, we are very much intent on ensuring that we have proper ports for import, export on the island in the nearest future. And this is a very important undertaking because it means that until we do, all of our goods must sail past Tobago to Trinidad and then be sailed back to Tobago. That does not work for our food security. And so that's a matter that we have to treat with. The matter of if or when I'll be asked to address the heads of government, I am not asked to address the heads of government at this time. What is certainly happening, however, is that I have several meetings scheduled with other leaders in the region about this issue. And certainly the issue I want to raise with my colleagues around the region is the issue of how do we as a Caribbean solve an historical injustice. How do we get past colonialism and what colonialism did to us? Because that's what resulted in Trinidad and Tobago coming together, and ensure that smaller territories that were appendaged to larger territories without their consent, that they are given a voice and a seat at the table. That's the kind of conversation I wish to have, and certainly to look at models across the region, in particular the St. Kitts Nevis model. I saw recently in the St. Vincent Parliament, because sometimes when I'm up working late in the night, I just play what's happening on the news and in parliaments around the region. And I saw one government minister in Nevis responding to the criticism, in the parliament in St. Vincent, was responding to the criticism that the recent budget was a Nevis budget. And he was making the point that Nevis is part of the country, and that if for so many years Nevis was neglected, then they ought to be treated well now. And I note the similarities with Trinidad and Tobago, that some think that they are getting less in Trinidad for the Tobago to get more. But for all the years we have gotten less, we need to get more so that our development pathway can bring us to a point where we are equal with our counterparts in Trinidad. And so I believe this discussion is important for the region, and that the support we have from the region is critical. And so I must go on record and thank the Prime Minister for this surprising invitation, and for thinking outside of the ordinary and saying, look, we ought to be very progressive. I want to point out that somewhere in about 2008, 2009, when we had the John Prince Committee, the Tobago House of Assembly paid and brought the Premier from Nevis to Tobago for about a week. Just last week, I went through the schedule of when the Premier for Nevis was here at the time, and what he did, the public engagements, the public lectures, the reports, and so on, as I essentially prepare for what's upcoming. But yes, essentially, I am saying that this issue of the devolution of powers and how we move powers from the center to appendage states, that must be a conversation for the entire region. Because be guaranteed that if St. Kitts and Nevis has this challenge, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they have it. Grenada will have it, and Antigua Barbuda will have it. Those conversations are not uncommon, and perhaps it is time for a common solution around the region. But we are insistent that by the end of 2026, we must have the necessary laws passed for our benefit. In terms of the National Security Council, I have not been invited as yet, and that's a matter that the Prime Minister is still considering. I have some follow-up questions. So Mr. Nicholas from Guardian Media Limited, and then Ms. Williams from TV6 News.
Mr. Augustine, the S&P Global report on the Blue Wave Harmony, it addressed maintenance and safety issues up to December 2025. There were 28 defects noted across 5 countries between 2023 and 2025. Firstly, did you see that report, and are you concerned given all that has happened with the vessel since it arrived on January 22nd?
No, I have not seen that report. I remember sometime last week during Panorama, I think one of your colleagues asked me about if I am sure about the safety of the vessel and whether or not I've had reports suggesting otherwise. And I indicated to him that I had not. So is that S&P Global report, is that available online? And if it's not available online, can you just send a copy to my office? I would like to see that report. But from the email communication from the minister, it would suggest that all things are in place for the vessel's safe operations. And as I've also said, I am prepared to also take that journey along with my truckers and those in the industry, because I can't just commit to it being safe without committing myself to be there with them. Ms. Williams?
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chief Secretary. With respect to the same cargo situation between Trinidad and Tobago, I know we at TV6, we interviewed a businessman expressing his frustration and him wanting to close down his business. I know you mentioned it. Were you surprised by this in terms of his losses mounting in over 500, $500,000, per month? Also, there's a situation with truckers. Most of them have been sleeping on the various ports, whether it is in Trinidad or Tobago, and some are being left behind. So the question is being asked, since the vessel is big and should be able to hold larger or more trucks than the cargo staff, why some truckers are still being left behind? And if how soon will these situations be addressed? I know that our colleague, another media house would have spoken about some of the deficiencies with the vessel. Are you worried that more instances of unreliable service will occur with the Blue Wave Harmony?
All right, thank you for your questions. In terms of truckers sleeping on the port and being left behind, with the Blue Wave Harmony carrying capacity, going forward, none of the equipment and so on should be left behind. The Port Authority did put out their number. Please call, please just show up at the port, talk to the agents there, and get your stuff on. During this week, as the Blue Wave Harmony conducts its trials, it will seek to take all of the vehicles from Trinidad across to the island of Tobago. In terms of whether I was surprised at the businessman's claim, I did see that report, and when I saw that report, of course, I'm happy for any business that makes $500,000 or more in a month's time. So I'm extremely elated that such good business can happen on the island. And I did say earlier on that we will do all in our part to ensure businesses like that don't close on the island, because we want businesses like that to continue doing well. It's in our best interest and the interest of the economy of the island for that to happen. Our truckers, just note that the days of sleeping on the port should soon come to an end, because the Blue Wave Harmony does in fact have significantly more number of cabins that will allow you a comfortable journey to and from Tobago. So we'll take Ms. Green, and then we close with Mrs. Thompson-Forbes as our last question.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary.
Thank you.
As met by the SMP Global Report, the number of issues and the age of the boat, some would consider that support to consider that these sea trials have been a failure. Why would the Blue Wave Harmony be left here for a year, considering some of the issues we've already experienced with this boat, the docking, the ramps, all of these issues we've been having, it shutting down and stuff like that. Could you give us some idea about why perhaps the Blue Wave Harmony is being left here for a year to be considered for, further use, and if this is something that the ministry that Ms. Julian John heads, is that their decision or is that THA's decision?
Well, that's certainly the ministry's decision, because they are the ones paying. The Tobago House of Assembly, nor the people of Tobago spends any money on these vessels, really. So it's the decision of the central government on that matter. I have not seen the report you're talking about, so I cannot do an assessment as to whether or not the issues raised in this so-called report have been meaningfully addressed or not. Before the Blue Wave Harmony got here, we were told that the Blue Wave Harmony will be here for 1 year, which will allow us enough time, sufficient time, to acquire the most appropriate vessel for a permanent situation. Getting a vessel is not quite the same like going into the showroom by Massey or Ansa Motors and picking up a car. That's not how it works. This is a time-consuming process and requires some diligence. And so the matter of whether it should really be here for a year or less, that's a matter a bit out of my purview, certainly at this time. The Blue Wave Harmony, I would say, is here. It should begin full operations from March 1, and the intention is to use this to fill the gaps and ensure that our citizens that lost business can stop the financial bleeding, so to speak. While that is happening, I have already given the commitment that we are studying what transpired in terms of the impact on our economy and the kinds of response the THA should give consideration to. But I want to point this out. We did not send away the Carbo Star after it had 2 fires in 1 year. We didn't send away the Carbo Star when people were stranded on it for 17 hours and had to cross from one boat to another in high sea. In fact, some wanted us to keep the Carbo Star going, notwithstanding. So I find it a tad bit hypocritical the road we're going down in terms of whether this vessel should stay or not stay, because some issues occurred with the boat during this transition period. Given our history, ideally, and I would perhaps always say it, we should not have gotten rid of the Superfast Galicia. And if you look at the court case in 2023, the court found that those who procured the Superfast Galicia did not do anything wrong. That was the government's claim while they refused to keep the Superfast Galicia on board. The Superfast Galicia should have still been here, because in my mind it was the best boat cargo vessel we had in a very long time. And we got rid of it for the Carbo Star. Now we have the Blue Wave Harmony. So Mrs. Thompson-Forbes? You need to unmute for a final question, Mrs. Thompson-Forbes.
My apologies. Good afternoon again, Chief.
Yes, good
my
afternoon.
question is in relation to the Constituent Assembly. If the Constituent Assembly produces strong recommendations, but the legislative reform is delayed or blocked, what alternative strategy will the Tobago House of Assembly or Tobago on a whole pursue to advance its governance objectives? And in addition to that, when can we start seeing what indicators will determine whether the process is progressing successfully? Because this is a new thing, and have we gotten any responses from the opposition, the minority, and the independent persons having bought in to this new idea? Have you received or formally given any invitation, and have they accepted?
All right, so I have said in the past that Tobago has to be prepared to fight for this matter of our autonomy to the extent that we are willing to go to the international community over this matter. And that's if the central government will refuse to give us what we deem necessary for our socio-economic growth and our autonomous operations here on the island. That still holds true, and I'm not going to back away from that as a pledge to lead such a strong advocacy should the national government reject what the people of Tobago wants and actually needs at this time. No, I'm not proposing that we be unreasonable, but I'm saying we have been at this for a long, long time. From the day Tobago was had joined to Trinidad and was basically said, you know, give up your culture, give up everything and just be part of Trinidad. We have said as an island, this cannot be right, this cannot work. And the Prime Minister has indicated a very strong willingness to support this movement and to support a progressive approach, which is what inspired this Constituent Assembly. I'm not sure if you recall that a few weeks ago I had a meeting that included the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, I believe Legal Affairs Minister was there, and Minister of Finance was also present in that meeting. At that meeting, what we really discussed was this matter of our autonomy. And it's out of that meeting, I indicated that we will form this Constituent Assembly that will corral the ideas and opinions of Tobagonians, while simultaneously having a team of legal drafters that will codify these things in law, so that we will then propose a piece of legislation to Tobagonians who will first have the chance to review it. Then we will propose same to the independents and the opposition in the National Parliament. I think opposition leader Mrs. Beckers did point out that we had a conversation about this matter of autonomy. We spoke about it. She pledged her support. I have not had a conversation with any of the independent senators, but I did indicate that they will all be formally written to, will be meaning future tense, pursuant to the forming of the Constituent Assembly, so that they can be invited to also make their contributions, and more so to listen to what the people of Tobago, what they are saying. Because sometimes they sit in the other place in Port of Spain and they see the recommendations, but they haven't really heard, they have not heard what the people of Tobago said, or at least they're not hearing what the people of Tobago are saying. And so I want them to be in a place where they can be more intimate with the people of Tobago and what the people of Tobago are saying that they want and need out of this exercise. I think that is critically important. And as I said before, the Constituent Assembly, it won't be managed by me necessarily, because I don't want the Constituent Assembly to be run by politicians. I want it to be run by experts from different fields that will facilitate the conversations while simultaneously we do some legal drafting to be able to propose bills firstly to the people of Tobago, who will then settle on it in terms of whether they want it or not, and then to the Parliament. So by the time it gets to the Parliament, I will desire that the government, the opposition, and the independents in the Parliament will be quite familiar with not just the process, but what the people of Tobago have been saying that they want out of this process. I think that is absolutely critical. And so again, I thank the government and thank the Prime Minister for obliging to this request from the Tobago House of Assembly for us to proceed to take the lead in the manner that we are going to take the lead, ensuring that it comes from the people in a very indigenous way. Again, I want to thank you. I want to apologize for all the disruptions that happened. Really ferry, notwithstanding the THA nor the Chief Secretary really and truly having any part to play in those disruptions. I thank you again, because I asked you for patience about 2 weeks ago, and you have in fact exhibited patience. I thank the truckers. You have had conversations with the Deputy Chief Secretary, and I thank you for those conversations. As we work this out, we are looking forward to March 1, when we will have full commercial operations. Again, I want to commend those in the PAN fraternity, and give special commendations to those 3 arrangers that are critical. I also want to remind that the transit launch at Scarborough will be open for official use from latest 4 p.m. on Monday. so you can expect to sit in comfort as you await the transportation. And that's for those who commute to Lansome, Charlottesville, Speyside, essentially east and north of the island. Again, the Blue Wave Harmony should have already left. You should have departed our port in Scarborough. But if not, it should be looking to depart. I did point out the number of vehicles brought from Port of Spain to Scarborough today. I did give the commitment that for the truckers who are at the port, that they're going to do their best to accommodate all and sundry and ensure that we get everyone with their goods up to Tobago. I also pointed out that over the carnival period, how many spaces were actually available to those in the tourism sector for people to come to Tobago to rest and relax. I did point out that we only utilize 43% of the capacity. So again, I want to thank you, and I want to wish you God's richest blessings. Please enjoy the week ahead. Have a very, very productive week ahead. God bless you.